So you're interested in finding out what it takes to have courtroom charisma. You want to know how to have a commanding presence. You want to be able to walk into the courtroom and be that lawyer that just sort of exudes credibility, exudes some form of elan vital or some ineffable quality that makes you stand out as the real alpha dog in the courtroom. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, and I don't care if you're a brand new rookie lawyer or if you're an attorney who has tried some cases. But if you're interested in the subject, I think you'll find this helpful, because I've been chasing this question down for more than 30 years. And I have gleaned some tips. I've tried a lot of cases and I've had a chance to get a lot of feedback and practice. But the things that helped me the most are easily communicated. And so that's what I'm going to do with you today. There is a very famous statue. It's called the Statue of David, and it was carved in the 15th century by the great artist in Italian Renaissance times by the name of Michelangelo. And when he finished it, everyone that saw it knew it may be the most brilliant piece of sculpture ever created in the art world up to that point in time. And some people still think it is to this day. But people would ask Michelangelo, how in the world did you do that? And his answer was so simple, it was almost silly, but it was absolute truth. He said, I just get a big lump of marble and carve away everything that isn't David. And when I'm done, I have David. So in terms of evolving as a courtroom lawyer into the kind of attorney that you're seeking to become, someone with that real stage presence, if we're going to use the word, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like that phrase in a minute. But if you want to be able to do that, you have to learn from Michelangelo. You have to carve away everything that isn't you. When I was a boy, I used to love watching the Perry Mason TV show. And I started watching the reruns of it yet again when I was a young, fresh law school graduate studying for the bar exam. And I thought to myself, this is who I want to be. I want to be Perry Mason. I don't want to be like him. I want to be him. I probably can steal so much from this guy in terms of how to act in a courtroom. It will be fabulous. So I thought of watching Perry Mason as some form of early trial training. But the thing about Perry Mason is he's an actor. Raymond Burr played the part, and he's an actor playing a lawyer. And if you want to be an actor playing a lawyer, you certainly can do that. And you might be able to do it very, very well. But do not do that in a courtroom. Do it on a theater stage or a movie set. But in a courtroom, you can't be an actor playing a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer playing yourself. And when I first got that advice, it really threw me. And the person I got that advice from was a very famous Wyoming lawyer by the name of Jerry Spence. And he had courtroom presence, believe me. He was also a bit over the top, both in his flamboyant dress in the courtroom. He used to wear suede jackets with foot-long tassels under the arm. But he tried a lot of cases against my father. And my father was a veteran trial lawyer, nationally renowned. And I thought to myself, maybe I should try to be my dad, because my dad did really well in those cases. Jerry Spence, my dad, which one do I want to be? And you know, I actually asked that question of Jerry Spence one day. And I said, this is the kind of stuff that's rattling around inside my head. And he says, you can't be me. You cannot be your papa. You cannot be anyone else. You can only be you. There's only one you, and you're the only one who gets to be that person. So as soon as you move off that golden rail of self-honesty and self-projection, you begin to contaminate the whole process. It'd be like gluing rocks back onto the Statue of David. You just crap up the whole thing. So I didn't want to hear that, because I thought, as a young lawyer, just going to come off like a squirmy little kid. If I act like me, people will laugh and they'll discount me and they'll quit listening. But it turns out that nothing truer was ever said to me as a young lawyer coming up. So, first rule, do not try to be someone else. You've got to learn how to be yourself. And I'm going to give you a really good key on how to do just exactly that without all that pollution running around in your mind where you're self-monitoring, you're self-conscious, you're trying to imagine what you must look like 6 feet outside your own head. And those are all contaminants. Those are pollutants that get in the way of it. When you try to be someone else, you come off very weird. When you come off as yourself, you come off absolutely genuine. And that is the key. You have to be able to do that. The first step in that is to get off the idea that you're performing in any way, shape, or form in the courtroom. You cannot go into the courtroom thinking that you're going to be reading lines or imitating someone or doing impressions of other lawyers. That is just mental poison. You've got to shed that. In the context of over-the-top acting, a judge that I listened to a lot once said, if you did have to have an actor in the courtroom, God forbid, William Shatner is not the one you would want. You don't want the over-the-top theatrics. He said if you had to be any actor, Gary Cooper would probably be your best bet. He was an actor in the 50s and 60s, most known for being very relaxed, very much the gentleman, and very understated. His voice was great, and his lines were written by others, but he had that lawyer aura. Even though he didn't play lawyers, he played a man trying a case on his own behalf without a lawyer in The Fountainhead, which was based on the Ayn Rand novel. So you've got to take your attention off yourself completely. You can't be thinking about what you look like, what you sound like, or how you're coming off. What you can be thinking about and should be thinking about is how the jury is receiving, not you, your message. How they see you isn't the point. How they receive your message is everything. There isn't a single thing in the courtroom that's as important as that. You have to be a conduit, not the message. You're just a conduit for the message, and that message has to be the truth. If you try to alter the truth or try to alter yourself in a courtroom, those falsities are detectable. It's as though jurors had a fourth little bone in their inner ear that resonates to the sound of phoniness or alteration or dishonesty. They sense it. They are so good at that. That's one of the things that makes the American system of justice so great. But you've got to be alert to the pitfalls that come with that extra sensitivity, because jurors do not trust lawyers when they first come in after being summoned for jury duty. They are automatically suspicious of anybody in that courtroom who's dressed as I am right now. So you have to overcome a pre-existing bias against you as a lawyer. And absolute honesty, both in terms of your personal delivery and the information in your message, is a vital, vital thing. So again, take your mind off of what you think you look like. Don't try to mock up a mirror in your mind and look at yourself in the mirror or play to your own private internal movie theater or cinema. You just have to ditch all that thinking. Kind of reminds me of an old song. I've been always on my mind. I'm a terrible singer. And actually, that's not how the song goes, but you get the concept. One thing that will assist you greatly is learning how to speak fluently and clearly in a courtroom. If you can't formulate sentences on the fly that make sense and that will read well in a transcript later, then you need to work on that. You could see a speech therapist, or you can just practice at home. This is not something that really does require any kind of coaching or acting lessons or legal training. Learning how to speak fluently and smoothly comes from practice, like all things. You just need to do it a lot until you have that skill in hand. Now, one thing that gets in the way that we have not talked about is fear. There have been studies done that say that among Americans surveyed, the number one fear wasn't death, severe injury, or poverty. It was the fear of public speaking. Some people are so afraid to speak in front of others that it cripples them. I'm going to assume that you don't have that phobia yourself, or you wouldn't have chosen this line of work. But if you do have fear, there are 2 tips I can give you that will erase almost all of it. You don't want to be this guy in a courtroom. And the reason this young lawyer that you see on this image is so scared is he wasn't prepared for trial. He didn't know all the facts in his case. He didn't have the key dates committed to memory. He didn't know what the key exhibits say on their face. And he certainly wasn't sure what each witness was going to say on the stand. And that lack of preparation is what fills especially younger lawyers with fear. But even older lawyers can fall prey to this. In particular, older lawyers get complacent. They are comfortable in the courtroom, but they don't have the case mastered. So a lot of getting rid of fear is just doing your homework before you get to trial. And if you think you've done enough homework, you're wrong. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as doing enough homework. When you think you're fully ready, go back to square one and keep going. You'll hear people say, well, he was over-prepared. What nonsense. Sounds great. It's one of the most deliciously tasteful excuses you could ever wrap around yourself. But there's no truth to it. You cannot be over-prepared. No matter how prepared you are, you can always improve that. And if you have the time, spend it wisely on your preparation, because your fear in the courtroom will go down massively. The other thing that I want to emphasize in terms of getting rid of fear comes from a lesson I was taught by the great actor Joseph Gustafaro, who taught trial practice to lawyers. One day in his class, he announced that he had never tried a case in his life, but he was there to teach advanced trial practice. And a few of the older lawyers in the room, who thought of themselves as brilliant legal scholars, got up and stormed out of the room. Well, I could tell just by looking at these people, they had never tried a case and probably never would. So they couldn't appreciate the enormous value that Mr. Gustafaro brought to the remainders of the audience who stayed behind. Here's what he said, very simply, and I've lived by this since. And after I took his classes, my verdict rate went way up. I started winning cases much, much more than I had been. And he said these words: presence comes from being comfortable. Being comfortable comes from doing it a lot. Seek out every opportunity you can find for public speaking. And if you have a chance to try a case, even if it's just a little nothing deal, it gets you into the courtroom and it gives you those hours of experience that help you be comfortable. And as Joe Gustafaro said, gives you the presence you need. I'm Brett Godfrey. Thank you for listening.